Meanwhile, in a related development, the Nigerian Governors Forum says the 60,000 minimum wage proposal of the federal government is not sustainable and cannot fly. They say this will simply mean that the Spanish states will spend all their FAC allocations on just paying salaries with nothing left for the development proposals and other development in the state. And a few states will end up borrowing to pay workers every month. The NGF says this is not in the collective interest of the country, including workers. The governors appeal that parties involved, especially the labor unions, should consider all socio-economic variables and settle for an agreement that will be sustainable and fair to all segments of the society who have legitimate claims to the public resources. The forum urges all parties to consider the fact that the minimum wage negotiation was also involving consequential adjustment across cadres, including pensioners. And join us via Zoom to discuss further is the national president of the Union of Local Government Employees, Norge Akim Ambali. Many thanks for joining us on the program this morning.
Good morning, sir.
All right, good morning to you. What do you make of this back and forth on the national minimum wage? At the moment, the governors are saying that the 60,000 naira proposed cannot fly. What do you make of this?
Well, we don't know which one to believe. The Southern Governors Forum is saying they are paying little amount above 60,000. Some are saying it's not sustainable. But let me lay the fact on the table. At the last tripartite committee meeting before Labour, before it became deadlock, even the Governors Forum, all other parties proposed 60,000 to Labour. And it was at that junction that Labour decided it is a peanut, it's not enough, and that is why we reached a deadlock that eventually led to that spike of Monday 3rd. So going back and front shows that there is sincerity on part of employer of Labour, because before the strike was suspended, there was a communique signed with Labour, which has been transmitted to the tripartite committee. So somebody now coming out now talking from two sides of the mouth is not good, it's not healthy, and it's against the principle of collective bargaining, because at the end of the day, they are trying to push the labor, to provoke labor to go back to the trenches. And that will not be fair, that will not be good. And I think the voice of reasoning should prevail.
All right, so what do you think should put in place to derive an indices that will make us have a substantial national minimum wage at this time?
What needed to be put in place is the political will and courage of Mr. President, because at a point in time, he directed the Minister of Finance to come up with the financial implication of the amount to be proposed by federal government. So it is preemptive for Governor Forum to come out and try to hijack the process, because ordinarily, they are not supposed to even be members of the tripartite committee. They are not supposed to. It's as a result of consideration, because the tripartite committee consists of the government, the federal government, the labor, and the organized private sector. It's a three-leg thing. But in the wisdom of Mr. President, he chooses to include some of the governors there. Labor is also aware that some of the governors included in the negotiation are not the ones, they are not paying minimum wage. So whatever they are saying now is as a result of the fear of the default in implementing the old minimum wage that is propelling the ideas.
Let's also understand that the tripartite committee's job is just to recommend and not to approve. And so all this is subject to the approval of the president. But according to the outcome of the meeting, they said that this 62,000 naira they agreed on was based on some factors. They concluded on some factors like the cost of inflation and sustainability of state government to be able to follow through with this agreement. But this 62,000 naira, does it reflect the realities of the average Nigerian worker?
You and I know that it does not reflect that. Food inflation is about 40%. So what is the percentage increment they are proposing? To feed an average Nigerian family, Labour was analytical in her submission. Labour started by saying to feed a family of 6 at 500 naira per day times 6 is 3,000. 3,000 times 30 days is 90,000. That's only on feeding, without transportation, without medicals, without rent, without others. So what Labour is continuously challenging them to, let them break down what they want to pay. How much is expected to feed an average Nigerian per day? Is it 50 kobo? Is it 10 naira? In this inflationary trend that government pushed Nigeria into as a result of removal of fuel subsidy. So our belief is that government should show seriousness on this so that workers will be able to go to work, concentrate on delivering our duties, and also grow the country wealth. If somebody is saying it's not sustainable, is governor's salary sustainable? Is National Assembly salary, member salary sustainable? Is the SA to president and SA to them at the federal level sustainable? Why are we showing wickedness to the workers? When somebody with this economy earn as much as 30 million, 15 million, 1 million per month, and you are saying a peanut of 250,000 is not sustainable. Why? We need leaders who are God-sent, who are godly, who are passionate, who understand that governance is for the collective good of Nigerian people.
And late into the night yesterday, the Labour agreed on reducing this from their claim of 494,000 to about 250,000 naira. Where do you see this conversation ending? Looking at the fact that the Labour is saying that if they do not reach a common ground, they will have to go back to the strike.
When the strike was suspended, it was not called off as a result of intervention of the presidency and some eminent Nigerians. And they are also aware now, nobody thought this thing would linger on even after the strike. A proactive government would have taken bold steps and arrest the issue. I said this severally. Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu asked what it takes to resolve this issue within 24 hours. When I remember when President Buhari was on seat and we were in this kind of scenario, it was President Ahmed Bola Tinubu who left Lagos and came to NSC Secretariat and brokered peace. Now it is his turn. I believe in his capability, in his competence, in his consideration, because he promised Nigerian workers that he's going to give a living wage to Nigerian workers. A word of a man is the bond between that man and God. So having said that, this cannot be, you cannot come and say you want to pay slave wage instead of living wage we should promise Nigerian workers.
Mr. Ambali, back to that 2023, you will recall that budget stated that 15 states were not able to pay the minimum wage fixed by the then President Muhammadu Buhari. How many of the states are viable to be able to pay?
That is incorrect.
To be able to pay. That's according to budgets. How many of the states are viable? Just a moment. Just a moment. Just a moment. How many of the states are viable to pay this minimum wage of 250,000 naira?
Well, you have not allowed me to answer the first question. The first question is that 15 states. That is incorrect. The committee set up by tripartite committee under the Minister for Finance submitted a detailed report indicting 6 states to have defaulted in paying minimum wage. So it is incorrect to say 15 states. And out of that 6 states, we realize that Zamfara has approved it because Labour issued a notice of ultimatum to those states. It's not about inability to pay. It is about unwillingness to pay. You ask yourself, a governor of Zamfara that did not pay salary, minimum wage, is earning the same salary like governor of Lagos State. What is the justification in that? The commissioner in Zamfara is earning the same thing as commissioner in Lagos State and Delta State. And this governor that refused to pay previously, when an ultimatum was served on him, he quickly approved it. So you can see the wickedness of our political class. It's not that they have inability, they don't have ability to pay. It's because of lack of priority for workers' welfare in their state. And that is why most of the states that deny workers this right are having a lot of challenges in terms of insecurity, poverty, and what have you.
You are yet to answer my question, Mr. Ambali. How viable are the states to be able to pay the minimum wage of 250,000 naira at this time? Workers will not be sacked.
SUBT, about 20, that is sold about 180 million per one. You are still asking me how viable that state is. They said there appoint over 200 political jobbers, just giving them money, and you are asking how viable is that state. They said that continue to embark on gigantic project, and you are still asking how viable is that state. Since May 2023 till date, allocation to state has increased over 100%. Yet it has not rubbed off on the people. So it's not about, it's about changing the mindset of our political leaders and political class.
If you will be sincere to yourself and the workers, what will you be suggesting as a substantial minimum wage at this time, if we're having this back and forth argument on this?
Well, I'm a member of the tripartite committee. By law, I should not say that publicly. My recommendation to be to the committee.
All right. Okay. Do you have any questions?
Looking at the fact that Labour is insisting on 250,000 naira, we're talking about the viability of states to pay. Let's also talk about issues like competence and the productivity, the average level of productivity of the average civil servant. If the federal government decides to pay 250,000 naira to an average Nigerian worker, are they as productive as that amount?
It depends on how you measure productivity. The essence of salary, enhanced salary for workers, is a motivation towards better productivity. An happy worker that is well remunerated will contribute his best to the establishment. And whatever you pay the workers is like a mirror. It reflects back to that agency, companies, and organizations, whatever you pay to them. When you look at companies like oil companies, when you look at banks, you look at other companies that are paying very well in private sector, you measure their productivity based on remuneration. But when you pay slave wage, you don't expect better productivity in that sector. That is why we are saying for us to grow the economy, for us to ensure workers concentrate and add value to productivity, they deserve a better remuneration.
Well, let's not also forget that we still have the issue of ghost workers in the civil service. How is the federal government expected to bridge this gap while also meeting the demands of labor?
Well, there is no payment without the approval of Federal Minister of Labor. And it is so easy now that payment register is computerized. Unless somebody, it is giggle, what you put in is what you get. Unless somebody somewhere who is high up is involved, it will not practically be difficult. Because once computer has recorded the actual number as a result of continuous verification of workers and pensioners, you can't add anything because it will reflect. It will practically, computer will shut you out. Now in the era of computer age, it is practically difficult to do that unless somebody handling that project is involved, is implicated.
If the government decides to even pay this 250,000 naira minimum wage, will this not lead to downsizing of workers in the country?
Already workers have retired massively. Some died. There are abundant vacancies in the system that has not been filled. You see, it's about priority.
Do you have enough facts to also back this up?
I know. When the federal government recruited massively, you are in the media, you also know, in the public service. I'm not saying about police and others that are doing about immigration, but in the core public service. When have you witnessed advertisement and recruitment exercise? It has been long, even before President Buhari came on board. There has been a kind of downsizing, technical downsizing. And again, about the issue of downsizing, the labor law is clear about it. If there is redundancy, labor will not oppose that. You sit down, you negotiate, what the laws prescribe is that workers that are going to be disengaged are entitled to their compensation. That's all.
What is your advice to the government at this time going forward with what we are seeing at the moment?
My advice to government, sir, is that government should be sincere with labor. Government operate within the microeconomy of the country. This hardship, poverty, and deprivation was fostered on Nigeria as a result of government policy. So government should show human face and show kindness. Whatever you can, instead of going backward and forward, let us sit down together with sincere purpose. Like President Tinubu has demanded, bring the prenatal implication, look at it, let labor also look at it. We are not robots, so that there will be shift of ground for both parties, so that one will not be too rich to another. But if you continue proposing 62, 61, 59, labor will also remain like that. But when there is a mindset that we agree we all want to shift, labor will also shift in the best interest of Nigerian workers.
National President, National Union of Local Government Employees, Akim Ambali, many thanks for joining us on the program this morning.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right.